Imagine you owe $3,000 on a credit card. Then the bill arrives. And right near the top, the bank gives you a number that feels strangely comforting. Not 3,000. Not even 300. Maybe it says $35. Maybe 75. Maybe a little more. But compared to the full balance, it feels small. Manageable. Survivable. And that tiny number does something powerful. It makes the debt feel less dangerous. It makes you think, I'm okay. I paid what they asked. But that is where the trap begins. Because the minimum payment is not a plan to get you out of debt. It is a way to keep the debt alive. In the next 10 minutes, we are going to cut open the minimum payment. We will look at what it actually does, why banks offer it, why your credit card statement is legally required to warn you about it, and who really gets paid when you only pay enough to stay current. Because the most dangerous number on your credit card bill is not always the balance. Sometimes it is the smallest number on the page, the minimum payment. First, you have to understand that a credit card is really two different products hiding inside one piece of plastic. The first product is a payment tool. You buy groceries, gas, subscriptions, flights, dinner, whatever. Then you pay the full balance before interest hits. Used this way, the card can be useful. You get convenience, fraud protection,
maybe rewards. And if you pay in full, you generally avoid interest. But the second product is completely different. The second product is a high-interest loan. That loan begins when you do not pay the full balance. You carry part of it into the next month. That is called revolving a balance. And once you revolve, the credit card stops acting like a payment tool and starts acting like one of the most expensive common loans in America. The CFPB reported that by 2024, the share of accounts revolving balances had returned to around 50%. That means millions of people are not just using credit cards to pay. They are using credit cards to borrow. And that is where the minimum payment becomes important. The minimum payment has one main job. It keeps your account from being late. That is it. It is the amount you need to pay to avoid being marked delinquent, avoid immediate late payment consequences, and keep the account current. That sounds helpful, and sometimes it is. If you are in a crisis and cannot pay the full balance, the minimum payment can stop the situation from getting worse right away. But here is where people misunderstand it. The minimum payment is not designed to free you quickly. It is designed to keep the account alive. You stay current, the bank keeps charging interest, the balance goes down slowly.
And if you keep using the card while paying only the minimum, the balance may not really go down at all. So the bank does not need you to stop paying. It can profit while you keep paying. Slowly, month after month. That is the business. Now, follow the money. Credit card companies do not make the real money from the minimum payment itself. They make money from what remains after that payment, the unpaid balance. That unpaid balance gets charged interest, and credit card interest is expensive. According to the CFPB's 2025 Consumer Credit Card Market Report, in 2024, the average APR reached 25.2% for general-purpose credit cards and 31.3% for private label credit cards, which are often store cards. The Federal Reserve reported that in May 2026, the average rate on commercial bank credit card accounts assessed interest was 22.15%. Those numbers are not exactly the same because they measure different data sets, but they tell the same basic story. Credit card borrowing is expensive, and this is why the minimum payment is so powerful. A small payment reduces the balance a little, but interest keeps rebuilding part of it. Then next month, the bank gives you another small number, another minimum, another month, another interest charge. The debt does not need to explode overnight. It just needs to survive. Here is the part almost nobody talks about. Your credit card statement is already required to warn you. Under CFPB Regulation Z, credit card statements must include a minimum payment warning. That warning tells you that if you make only the minimum payment, you will pay more in interest and it will take longer to pay off your balance.
Your statement also has to show how long it would take to pay off the current balance if you only make minimum payments. And it has to show how much you would need to pay each month to pay off that current balance in 36 months. Think about how strange that is. The same company collecting your interest is legally required to print a warning showing how expensive the minimum payment can become. But most people do not read that box. They look at the emotional number, minimum payment due, and they pay it. Because in that moment, the goal is not long-term optimization. The goal is survival. Just get through this month. And the credit card industry understands that perfectly. So who actually profits? First, the issuer. That is the bank or financial company that gave you the card. When you carry a balance, the issuer earns interest. And in 2024, consumers were assessed $160 billion in credit card interest charges, according to the CFPB. That was up from $105 billion in 2022. That is the main answer.
The issuer profits when the balance survives. But the issuer is not the only player involved in the original transaction. The merchant already got the sale when you bought the item. The payment network and payment companies may have taken their cut when the transaction moved. And if the debt eventually goes unpaid, collection agencies can enter the story. But when we ask who profits from the minimum payment itself, the clearest answer is this. The issuer profits from the interest on the balance you did not pay. The minimum payment is the door that keeps that interest engine running. Now, if this was only math, the solution would be easy. Pay more. But the minimum payment works because it is psychological. A $3,000 balance feels scary. A small minimum payment feels possible. So the card does not ask, can you afford the debt? It asks, can you afford this month? That is a completely different question. And once the debt is broken into tiny monthly payments, your brain stops treating it like a crisis. It becomes normal. Just another bill. Rent, phone, utilities, credit card minimum. And that is the dangerous part. The minimum payment can turn debt into a subscription. You are not really paying for the thing anymore. You are paying for the memory of buying it. Every month. With interest. Now, to be fair, credit cards are not automatically evil. If you pay your balance in full every month, a credit card can be useful. You can avoid interest. You can build credit history. You can get fraud protection. You may even earn rewards. The problem is not the card itself. The problem starts when a short-term payment tool becomes a long-term loan, because the system is much friendlier to people who do not need to borrow. If you pay in full, the card can work for you. If you revolve a balance at 20 or 30% APR, the card starts working against you. Same card, different customer, different business model. And store cards can make this even worse. You know the pitch. Save 10% today if you open a card. At the register, it feels like free money. But many private label cards carry higher APRs than general purpose cards. The CFPB reported that in 2024, the average APR for private label credit cards was 31.3%. That means the discount can disappear fast if you carry the balance. You save $20 today, then paid interest for months. That is the trick. The store gets the sale. The card issuer gets the balance. You get a smaller payment today and a bigger problem tomorrow. So who really profits when you make the minimum payment? The merchant already got paid when the purchase happened. The payment companies may have earned transaction fees. But the player who profits most from the minimum payment itself is the issuer, because the unpaid balance keeps generating interest. That is why the minimum payment feels helpful. It is helpful enough to keep you from being late, but not always strong enough to get you free. It keeps you inside the system, current, compliant, and still paying. The minimum payment is not the exit. It is the treadmill. So the next time your credit card bill arrives, do not only look at the minimum payment. Look at the warning box. Look at the interest. Look at the 36-month number. Because the smallest number on the page may be the one costing you the most. If you want me to cut open another money trap hiding in plain sight, subscribe to Money Matters Daily. and comment what I should investigate next. Overdraft fees, insurance denials, rent payments, or cash advance apps. You already know what to do.